Good evening, and welcome along to another episode of Robin Elliott tonight. Joining me in the studio, Tommy Fleming makes his annual visit to NVTV to tell us about his upcoming gigs. Former X Factor star Amelia Lily will also be joining me, as well as comedian and author Dom Joly. I'll also be chatting to artist Duxy Leahy, and we'll be meeting some of the cast members of the Belfast Operatic Company's production of The Hunchback of Notre. That's all coming up on the show this evening. So, starting us off on the show this evening, I've been chatting to former X Factor star Amelia Lily. She's currently raising awareness about some of the stigmas attached to diabetes. Here's what happened when I met Amelia Lily earlier on this week. Today we're talking about the stigmas linked to diabetes, and I'm pleased to say that former X Factor finalist Amelia Lily, now she's been diagnosed with the condition since the age of 3, and she's going to talk about some new research that we've discovered today because Amelia joins us on the line. How are you?
Hi, I'm very well, thanks. How are you?
Very well, thank you. So tell us about this new research then. It's kind of quite startling, isn't it, really?
It is. I'm super excited to, being able to jump on board this campaign, working with Abbott. And, I think part of being, having my platform is that I've always wanted to raise awareness for diabetes, and obviously living with type 1 pretty much my entire life. It's great that I've been able to kind of share my journey with the public and hopefully raise awareness. And if anyone's got any questions, I'm your gal.
So things must have been difficult for you growing up, being diagnosed at the age of 3 and then having to learn things like injecting yourself. It must have been quite traumatizing for a young person.
Definitely. When I was really young, I kind of don't really remember the injections. My mom used to do them for me, and bless her, she said that I used to run behind the settee and she used to have to run and catch me and try and inject me. And that must have been hard, tough as for a parent as well, having to do that to a child. And ironically enough, my mum's actually got type 1 diabetes now. She got diagnosed in 2020, which was very, very quite rare for someone of her age. She's 58 now. She was 56 when she got it. It was quite rare for someone to get type 1 at that age. So it just goes to show that you can develop it at any age, which is quite scary. But we have got each other now, which is kind of sweet at the same time. So we get each other through a daily basis.
Well, the new research has found that 75% of people living with diabetes have viewed negative commentary towards their condition on social media, TV and online, haven't they?
They have. And, it's from, growing up myself with the condition, there's been things. I do think it's getting better, don't get me wrong. I remember as a child seeing things on TV saying, oh, don't eat that, otherwise you'll become a diabetic, or you can't eat that cake because you're a diabetic. And once again, it's just little comments like that people have no idea the mental impact that has on someone living with that condition, as a type 1 or as a type 2, and the conditions are very, very different, but both very relentless and intense.
And the figures show as well, scarily as well, that something like almost 5.5 million people across the UK by 2030 will have some form of diabetes, won't they?
Yeah, it's scary. When I was a child and when I first got diagnosed with type 1, it was very, very uncommon and nobody really knew much about it. We're talking 24 years ago here. And obviously since then, the amount of people now that I see walking down the street with a Freestyle Libre sensor system in their arm, or whether they've got an insulin pump on or they're injecting in public. And I'm like, oh my God, it's got so much more common now. And unfortunately, that's just one of those things that you can't really control it. Unfortunately, it's an autoimmune disease, and, it's obviously a failed pancreas. So it's just hard, but I guess obviously, the 4 T's, people have got to be aware of when it comes to type 1 diabetes, and that's 4 T's. I always forget the last one, so I must get it right. So it's thirst, toilet, thin, and there we go. Forgot the last one. Thirst, thin, toilet, and tired. That's the last one. Yeah, so they're the 4 T's that you've got to be aware of.
Well, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes on my 40th birthday. I went to the doctor and he said, "Happy birthday, Robin. By the way, you've got type 2 diabetes."
Oh, no.
But the first things that I noticed was the tiredness and the thirst first. That's what made me go and get the checkup. So I suppose those are the things people have to watch out for, don't they?
Absolutely. And how do you find it? Have you experienced any stigma? I feel like I should interview you.
Thank God I haven't, but I do now watch what I eat and stuff, and I don't drink fizzy drinks anymore and stuff like that. So I mean, I'm very conscious of what I do, but I still think there's a need for education out there, and something more needs to be done to educate people on what exactly diabetes is and how it affects you.
Absolutely, and the difference between both of them as well is scary as well, and I think people get them very mixed up and confused. So I think, if the likes of me and you can talk about it and hopefully educate people in some shape or form, it might, make people more aware.
So I suppose from Abbott now, this new Let's Change perspective is something good. It's a positive way forward, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think it's just kind of, just to kind of, like I say, educate people and hopefully raise awareness. And yeah, I mean, there is a website if people want to check out more. Let's Change Perspective .abbott, and if you head on there, you can find out more about the campaign. So yeah.
And they give some good tips and also things like words and opinions not to use to people who may have diabetes as well, which is very helpful, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think, like I said, like as being a child growing up, I definitely experienced certain things and thinking, oh, is there something wrong with me? Like, why am I doing this and why are they not doing that? And, and as I've got older, I've realized, no, actually, this is part of who I am. It's made me who I am. It's made me the strong woman that I am today. And yeah, like I wish I had somebody that I could have listened to in the public eye when I was a child to kind of reassure me that I am okay.
Yeah.
I will be okay, and I'm not on my own.
2011, I think it was, when you did X Factor, wasn't it?
It was.
Can you believe it's that long ago? It's making me feel old thinking about it now. A lot of people are coming out now with negative comments about their experience on the X Factor. What's your kind of memories? Are you pleased with the way things turned out?
I've actually just recorded and hosted a podcast for the BBC Sounds, which has been amazing to do. And I actually talk all about the X Factor and reality TV shows, whether they're good or bad, and interviewed a lot of people on there. So I would highly recommend listening to that as well, just because it kind of, I could sit on here and talk relentlessly, but obviously I'm the podcast says it all, and I had a very positive impact on the coming out of the X Factor and had a great experience. Some people didn't, but yeah, and it's just great that I'm able to share my journey and obviously come on here and talk about that, and as well as the campaign. So it's exciting.
What about you? Any new music for 2023?
We're thinking about it. I've got a few meetings lined up. Thinking about getting back in the studio soon. So I think I was saying 2023 I might get back in the studio. So it's here. We're here now. Let's see what happens.
Brilliant. Well, Amelia, it's been great talking to you. If anybody wants any more information on any of things we've talked about related to diabetes, where can they go to for more info?
Yes, so it's the Let's Change Perspective .abbott, the website.
Brilliant. Good to talk to you. Thank you for joining us.
And you, thank you so much.
Thank you. Right, time for some live music in the NVTV studios, and a song from the Hunchback of Notre. It comes to the Grand Opera House in March. It's a production by Belfast Operatic Company, and here's one of the stars of the show, Naomi Smith, with a song called Someday.
I used to believe in the days I was naive that I'd live to see a day of justice dawn. And though I will die long before Someday, when we are wiser, when the world's older, when we have learned, I pray someday we may yet live to live and let live. Someday life will be fairer, need will be rarer, greed will not pay. Godspeed this bright millennium on its way. Let it come someday. When the world's older, when things have changed, someday these dreams will all be real. Till then, wish upon the change will come someday
So there we go, that's Someday, a big song from a big musical. The musical in question is The Hunchback of Notre Dame. That was Naomi Smith performing that fabulous song. And I'm pleased to say that Belfast Operatic Company are staging The Hunchback of Notre Dame at the Grand Opera House. It opens on the 7th of March, and Naomi and also Connor Anderson from the show join us in the studio. Guys, welcome.
Hello.
Naomi, that was a big song
Yeah,
from a big musical.
from a very big musical, yeah.
So you're playing the main part, you're playing Esmeralda.
Well, female lead, yeah. I think Connor here would be the title role. So, yeah, it's very exciting.
So how's things going? How's the rehearsals going so far?
They're going really well so far. We're getting all very excited. We've managed to get sort of a staggered run through of the first act and starting to fix things and see how everything's going to gel together, which makes it very exciting. Puts a bit of pressure on, but good pressure.
Yeah, so Connor, the main pressure's on you as the lead, as the Hunchback then.
Yeah, well, the good thing about this show is that it really is a big team effort. Obviously, we do have a lot to do as the leading characters in the show, but we also have lots of leading congregants throughout it, and they have so much to remember throughout it, so everyone has a massive job to do. So we're all feeling the pressure, but it's all going really well. So
Brilliant, and of course it is the Disney version. A lot of people remember that as well, won't they?
yeah, it's got all the music from the Disney movie. I would say that there's some changes in the storyline, so there's a little bit of darker undertones throughout this show compared to the animated movie, but it's got all the songs that people will recognise. Yes.
The story's very much, it gives every character, you understand their journeys and how sort of the whole aspect of love, and there's sort of like a love square. You see that much, it's much more prevalent in the musical than just in the Disney movie.
Because of course the themes in it, and some of the darker themes as well, are still extremely relevant today, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely. Huge themes of prejudice, which we see towards both the Romani gypsy community and towards Quasimodo, who obviously is a person who lives with disability. So there's kind of the parallels drawn between both those prejudices there.
Brilliant. Okay, tell me about Belfast Operatic Company. How did you become part of the whole group then?
I auditioned to be a part of the company just post-COVID. So it was a very strange time. You're coming into audition and there was screens everywhere and everyone taking all the precautions. But I'd known of Belfast Operatic Company. I'd seen a lot of shows, and from doing other shows with the different amateur productions, that's how I got to know them. And then ever since then, that's sort of been my only my only form doing amateur dramatics at the minute, but it's a fantastic company that's very much like a family.
Yeah.
And very, very supportive of each other and supportive in life, because everyone has their own things. People are husbands, wives, mummies, daddies, they're solicitors, there's engineers, there's everyone from every walk of life, which is lovely.
Brilliant. And Conor, have you worked with the company before?
I was living in London during the first pandemic, and I was in London auditioning to be an actor. I'd worked as an actor a little bit, and then I made the decision to move back to Belfast during COVID. Took a step back from pursuing acting and performing professionally, but then really missed it and thought I just want to get back into it for fun and join a group here in Belfast. And I knew of BOC, their reputation is huge in Northern Ireland. And then as soon as I saw that Hunchback was the choice of musicals, I thought that's it, I have to go audition, and I absolutely loved every second of it, so be continuing with the company hopefully afterwards as well.
Brilliant. And there is such a big musical theatre community here in Northern Ireland, isn't there?
Yeah, everyone knows everyone.
Me and Conor knew each other from years ago.
Yes, we used to do Amdram.
Amdram, and now it's lovely doing full circle, getting to be in the Opera House as adults and getting to do something together again, which is lovely.
Yeah.
Exactly. So the show opens on the 7th of March, isn't that right?
Yeah. So we're 4 or 5 weeks out, but looking very confident, and the production team's very confident in us all, which is really good. We have a very good supportive system there.
Brilliant. Okay, we've heard a song from Naomi. Are we going to hear one from you, Conor?
Yes, absolutely.
What are you going to do?
I'm going to be singing Out There.
Okay, well here we go with Out There. Here is Conor Anderson, and of course this is from the Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Safe behind these windows and these parapets of stone, gazing at the people down below me. All my life I watch them as I hide up here alone, hungry for the histories they show me. All my life I memorize their faces, knowing them as they will never know me. All my life I wonder how it feels to pass a day not above them, but part of them. And out there, living in the sun, give me one day out there. All I ask is one to hold forever out there, where they all live on, where what I'd give, what I'd dare, just to live one day out there. Out there among the millers and the weavers and their wives, through the roofs and gables I can see them. Every day they scoff and scold and go about their lives, heedless of the gift it is to be them. If I were in their skin, I'd treasure every instant out there, strolling by the sea. Taste a morning out there like ordinary men who freely walk about there, just one day, and then I swear I'll be content with my share. Won't resent, won't despair, old and bent, I won't care. I have spent one day out
So don't forget, you can catch the Hunchback of Notre Dame at the Grand Opera House. It opens on the 7th of March and runs right through until the 11th of March. Time now to meet my next guest. He's an artist who's currently raising loads of money for charity. So here's what happens when I caught up with Duxy Leahy. Okay, my next guest on the show this evening is a fabulous artist who's raised thousands and thousands of pounds for charity over the years. He also uses his artwork to get over some of the issues that he's experienced during his lifetime. We're going to find out more because Duxy Leahy joins us into the studio. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
How are you today?
Not too bad.
Great stuff. So we'll talk about your artwork in a second. I know we've got some fabulous images that we're going to show as well of the stuff that you've painted, but art hasn't always been part of your life. I mean, you've had, I think it's fair to say, quite a difficult time over the years, haven't you?
I have. Some tough times, some really tough times. And life just didn't always work out how I would have liked it, no.
And this is right from a young age. You found yourself with a kind of a very addictive personality, didn't you?
I honestly would have got addicted to anything. I definitely would have. I found drugs at 16 and experimented with them for a while. Sort of tried to settle down, come away from that, settle down again, and then I found drugs again later on in life, yeah.
So you leave school and things then became a lot worse, didn't they?
Things became a lot worse. I wanted to go on and study A-level art, and I stuck it a day.
Right.
One day. I started working then at 16 in a local shop and 42-hour week, and doing little bits and pieces of drawings as well on the side, but basically just straight into work.
So we had the drugs, we had suicide attempts as well?
Yes, on my 29th, just before my 30th birthday, in February, my then partner decided that she had had enough, quite justifiably so. And I'd lost everything. I got tried to drive my vehicle home from the party, told not to come home. Got caught by the police, arrested. I had absolutely lost everything.
Was that the turning point then?
I remember the police and the ambulance coming, and the doctor then made me promise to go to the hospital. And I was just biding time. So I was biding the time, and I remember going for a cigarette in the back of the hospital with another guy, and I can remember the flash when I went down and hit my head. So they got me into the ward, and I hadn't ate 3 or 4 days. I hadn't drank anything that wasn't alcohol in 3 or 4 days. And they started to flush me. And I can remember taking an allergic reaction to the stuff that they were giving me. And I just remember going, I don't like this feeling.
Yeah.
I could feel my throat closing over, and yeah, it was a tough day. And then the next day was tougher.
But you came through it?
I came through it, yeah, I did. I came through it. I came through a very rough week. That week, I lost my best friend the next day. I lost my uncle the day after. And I can remember when I got out of hospital to go to the funeral, and then I had the police thing to deal with as well. And I can remember just breaking down in the police station and telling them everything. And he said to me something I'll never forget. He says, "You've done 10 years in prison."
Yes.
In a week.
Yeah.
You know, so I got there, I got all together, I got my life together, my partner stayed with me, and then the crash happened. My partner then left, and I was left with a lot of bills, a house worth nothing because everybody was affected by that, and mountain debts. And I made the one call. I made that one call, and they were able to help me with debt, you know, to get my debts and stuff sorted out. So I got my life back on track.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a hard few years.
Yeah.
And then recently, 2 years ago, again, life crumbled.
Right.
I went to pieces, and my friend then was called to come down and use her assist training, applied suicide intervention techniques. And I went to see Pips. Pips got me on track, and I have actually now learned the techniques to help people.
Yes.
That was used to save my life.
Yeah, yeah. And not only are you doing that, but you're using your artwork now to raise funds for those charities as well, aren't
Yes, we've raised thousands of pounds.
Yeah.
Thousands of pounds for charities to help people get the training that they need to use the training that was used to save my life, the assist training. We've raised for Macmillan's. We have raised money for homeless charities. We've raised money for LCCL, Pop-Up Art. We've raised £1,000 for Suicide Down to Zero, and they helped train people and stuff,
And it's so important to help those suicide charities because the suicide rate here for Northern Ireland being such a small country is very high.
I think from the last stats that I seen, it was the second highest in Europe.
Yeah.
We've a lot of trauma in this little country of ours.
If somebody's watching this now who may be thinking, yeah, this makes sense, I'm where he was, or I feel that my life could be going the way your life went, what advice would you give them now to do?
The first thing I would say to them is talk to someone. You will think that there's no one you can talk to. I thought the exact same. In fact, most of the suicide survivors that I've spoken to, you've nothing. You think that, and that's wrong. There are so many people out there that you can talk to. Phone your doctor, phone a friend, phone any of the charities, phone someone straight away, and they will get you help.
Yeah.
They will get you the help you need.
And you find that art in itself is a way to help control your mental health too?
My friend Jill Gordon, a very dear friend of mine, said, "But you're doing this with your art. Does that not keep you well?" And I went, "Actually, yeah, I paint freely to express, to get what's from inside out."
Yeah.
And she pointed me in the way to be a Take 5 ambassador for wellbeing, 5 steps to wellbeing. She says, "Do that training because you're doing that with your artwork." And then we got our heads together. She says, "Could you develop a course to help people with your art?" So we sat down and it took about an hour, did a painting that people could achieve in an hour. And I put that to her, and lo and behold, then I went and got other training. And she says, "I need you to supply this course to people." I'm going, "What, me, really? I'm not good enough." You know, the whole you're not good enough creeping in. And to date, I think I've had 60 or 70 people now sit in front of me like you are now and go, "I can't paint."
Yeah.
And every one of them leave with a painting
Wow.
that they've done themselves, and that's an amazing feeling. I believe everybody can paint.
Yeah, yeah.
One of the great things I do with, I get a volunteer for one of the classes, and I'll say, "So you can't paint?" "No." And I'll stand them in front of my easel with the longest paintbrush I have. "Can you paint?" "No." And I'll get them to take a step back from the easel. "Why?" "Oh, I've just never been good at it." And I get them to take another step back, and so on and so forth until they're standing well back from the easel. "Can you reach easel from there?" "Well, no." "Do you know why that is?" "Well, no, you've asked me to step back." And I'd say, "No, you've told yourself 5, 6, 7, 8 times that you can't do it."
Yeah.
You are what you tell yourself. And they just have that moment, and then they'll do the painting, which is very quick, very simple, with a bit of practice, and they all walk away with this painting that they achieved. They've came to the class thinking, "I can't do this."
Yes, yeah.
But they will go home with a painting that they've done.
So who can attend these classes then? If you're
Anyone.
Yeah.
Anyone at all. You can contact County Down Rural Network, who I do a lot of my work with. They will put you on a course when they're running one, and or contact me directly. If you're a charity, contact me directly, and we'll get something sorted out. And every single person that's been on that class has done a painting.
And you've had your own exhibition with Bill come and see your work as well, haven't you?
I've had my first exhibition. I remember that morning very, very well. I sat in the middle of the room, and it was like half 8, 9 o'clock, and I sat in the middle of that room because I hadn't started my journey of well-being, and I'd sat there. "Oh, I can't do this. I cannot do this." And I'm sitting, legs crossed, in the middle of the room, looking at 2 years of my life that were tough.
Yeah.
They were very tough. "I can't do this." And I was just about to get up and run away.
Yeah.
When the lady shouted from down, because we were in the pandemic then, and there was only 2 people allowed up the stairs and whatnot. And she says, "There's people here to see you." And there was no escape. So up they came and they went straight to this painting.
Wow.
They went straight to it and I went, yeah, it was a night scene, an evening scene, looking over the loch at Portaferry. That's amazing. That's ours. What? I'm sorry. What? You're buying that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's ours. Put a red dot on it. Red dot. And then the first day, I nearly sold out of paintings on the first day.
That's brilliant.
And I'm sitting there going, you've been told all these years you weren't good enough. You were here, you weren't good enough, and look, there you are selling paintings.
Yeah.
I actually had to take the paintings down off the wall, give them and paint new paintings to put up on the wall because the red dots were actually putting people off buying.
Yes, yes.
So I was repainting.
Yeah.
On the day in the centre, I was actually painting paintings because I had to open the centre because there was not enough staff. And I'm painting paintings and they're just going up on the wall and being sold. And I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah.
You know, it's been an amazing couple of years. I've worked in 2 years, in 2-3 years. I started again in 2017, properly painting in 2017, but I experimented with acrylics. A friend recommended I try acrylic work, so I taught myself. To do the acrylics, and I've now worked quite literally. It's mind blowing. It's just amazing. Quite literally all over the world.
That's amazing.
America, Australia, New Zealand, Poland, Germany, France. In 2 years. I studied for diplomas. I struggled at school, as we explained. I've now 2 diplomas in art therapy and I'm studying for my 3rd.
Wow.
All because you're telling yourself,
yeah,
I can do this.
That's brilliant. If people want to find out more about your artwork, do you have a website they can check out?
You're best finding me on my gallery, Duxy Leahy, on Facebook.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Duxy, it's been great talking to you. Thank you so much for coming in and sharing your story with us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, time now for our What's On guide, where we take a look and see what's happening throughout Belfast and beyond over the next week or so. We're starting off at the Lyric Theatre with a classic story. It's Shakespeare's classic tale of 2 star-crossed lovers and their feuding families. Romeo and Juliet gets a modern makeover with the Lyric Theatre's new production. Set in Verona in the summer of 2022, in the world of Italian high fashion, Lady Montague and Lady Capulet are propelled to the forefront as the leading designers of 2 rival fashion houses. And Romeo and Juliet continues at the Lyric Theatre until the 5th of March. Now moving on to the Grand Opera House here in Belfast, and the double Olivier award-winning West End and Broadway smash hit The Girl from the North Country runs from the 14th until the 18th of February. And celebrated playwright Conor McPherson, he boldly reimagines the legendary songs of Bob Dylan like you've never heard them before. The show is set in 1934 in the heartland of America, and we meet a group of wayward souls who cross paths in a time-weathered guest house. And standing at a turning point in their lives, they realize nothing is what it seems. But as they search for a future and hide from the past, they find themselves facing unspoken truths about the present. Moving on to music now, and Dominic Kerwin makes a welcome return to the Lagan Valley Island Centre in Lisburn on Wednesday the 15th of February with Stacey Breen and Barry Kerwin in support. Now, the original voice of Smokey, Chris Norman, performs the hits of Smokey at the Waterfront Hall on the 17th of February, and the Drifters, featuring original singer Rick Shepherd, are set to perform at the Waterfront Hall here in Belfast on the 18th of February. And finally for now, if you want to catch a movie in cinemas this weekend, why not check out the one that's all about the life of Steven Spielberg. We're talking about The Fabelmans, and growing up in post-World War II in Arizona, young Sammy Fabelman aspires to become a filmmaker as he reaches adolescence, but soon discovers a shattering family secret and explains how the power of films can help him see the truth. Okay, my next guest is a comedian and author who's always welcome on the show. We're talking about Dom Joly, and here's the main reason why we'll be talking to the man himself in just a second.
I've got to do a shop. Normally I go through my emails, which I can't do. Oh, there's just lots of stuff actually. Right, this is going to be harder than I thought. Okay, that was my first proper problem. I normally just pay for stuff using my phone. So I haven't got a card, haven't got cash. Couldn't do the shopping. I should have thought about that. I've got to reassess. I've got to carry a card and I've got to carry cash. But more and more, the world is cashless. So I have, without going into too much detail, a bill to pay. And I can't. I haven't got my mobile, so I can't ring up to pay it. And I don't have a landline anymore. That is a massive problem. I am heading off to pick up my daughter. She's playing in a hockey match at somewhere I don't know, and I don't know how to get there. That was a bit of a nightmare. We got totally lost in Oxford. Eventually asked someone. Unfortunately, I've missed the first half of the game. Data helps when you're finding your way around. This whole experience has highlighted how vital having a connection is. I think I take it massively for granted. In just a weekend, I felt very frustrated and sometimes quite isolated. And I can only imagine how hard it is for people who are disconnected over much longer periods and often without the support of others.
So I often ask myself, how did we ever cope without things like mobile phones and the internet? Could we survive without them? Well, I know somebody who's tried to survive a weekend without a digital connection. It's the one and only Dom Joly. How are you, sir?
I'm very good. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. Thank you for joining us. So you spent a weekend without a digital connection. I couldn't do it, and I think you struggled as well, didn't you?
Well, I didn't struggle. I mean, to be honest, the whole point of this is Tesco Mobile has teamed up with the Trussell Trust to kind of try and highlight the problem of digital disconnection, i.e. people facing financial hardship, being kind of cut out of society in a way by not being online. So to highlight that, I went off all internet and digital connection for a weekend. And honestly, for a weekend, it's not that hard. It was actually quite nice in some ways. I got to meet my family, learn my kids' names, read a book, do stuff like that. It was great. But the really weird thing about it is you do realize very quickly, and I think you only realize it once you go off a phone, just how much of our life now is like done on the phone. I'm famous for trigger happy in my big mobile. And in those days, you made a phone, you texted, you played Snake. That was it. Now everything is online, from stupid stuff. You go to a restaurant, you have to scan the menu, you pay your bills on it, you have to ID yourself, you use maps to get everywhere, and then the really important stuff, you keep in contact with people. You're in social media, you get your news from it. It's crazy. The whole world now is designed to be online, and it's great. But if you're not part of that, and if you're having problems financially and you're not able to afford data and can't get online, it's a real problem. And it's a problem I don't think people think about as much. I think people understand the concept of a food bank, and so you'll understand that this is a food bank, but instead of food, it's data. And obviously everyone needs food, it's crucial, but I think it's really highlighting the fact that access to getting online is also really, really important to people.
And I know here in Northern Ireland we have ones in Belfast, Derry and Ballymena, among other locations as well. And I would imagine if you go to the website, you can find your closest one as well.
Yeah, if you go to tescomobile.com, you can get info about all the sort of partnerships and everything that's going on there, yeah.
Yes, yeah, because of course when you think of the cost of living crisis and stuff at the minute, for many people it is, what do I put first? Obviously, do I heat the house first? Do I eat first? It's a big thing at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think people are aware of all those things, food and heating and stuff, and I think maybe sometimes people don't think about the digital element. You know, it sort of feels a bit trivial, but actually it affects pretty much every part of your life. So it is really important. I mean, if for nothing more than just isolation and keeping people sort of in contact with people, it's really important.
And according to the research as well, I think 35% of us say we know somebody who doesn't have access to the internet or mobile with data or even Wi-Fi at home.
Yeah, although how do they know them? Like, how do we contact anyone anymore? Do you bump into someone in the park and you notice that they're not on their phone? Like, how do you know? It's just very weird. I mean, 35% is a large amount, but it is a big problem because the world now is geared up to, you know, you need it to function.
So, Dom, last time we spoke, you were talking about the possibility of coming to Northern Ireland, of coming to Belfast for a visit. Are we any closer to that?
I mean, I've been to Northern Ireland several times, but I really, really want to do. I was in touch with some people that do these amazing tours of Belfast, like a sort of guide through the Troubles, and I've been threatening to come for so long, but I'm trying to finish my book at the moment. So when I finish my book, I've then got a month off. So I am going to come over because actually it's something I might be doing for my next project. I'm really fascinated in Belfast anyway. There's a sort of, I feel a slight kinship because I grew up in Beirut and we had a similar sort of, you know, not similar, it's very different, but, you know, that idea of sort of civil war and troubles and stuff. And the way life carries on through that, and you sort of develop quite a black sense of humor. And I've always felt like I get it and I understood Northern Ireland, but I didn't know enough about it. So yeah, it was something I wanted to learn more about.
And what was life in Beirut like growing up? Was it really scary?
Well, the truth was it was actually great. You know, like most of the time, you know, you'd sort of milk it a little bit. You know, when I'd come over here, I'd be like, oh, I'm in Beirut. They go, oh, that must be dangerous. And you just nod and go, yeah, but I'm incredibly hard. And there were times that were weird. Like, you know, you'd be in a bomb shelter for a week because you're being shelled, or you'd go through roadblocks, which were quite frightening. But on the other hand, I lived in a place that looks like a cross between California and the south of France. It was an hour to the ski slopes, an hour to the beach, half an hour to the Civil War. It had everything you wanted, really. So I had a pretty good childhood, but I can't equate it. But I think it's also probably responsible for why I'm completely messed up and have a weird warped mind, because you just don't know what you'd be like if you grew up in a normal place, you know. So
any other projects in 2023 we should know about? Anything else exciting happening for you?
Well, I'm trying desperately to finish my new book, which is called The Conspiracy Tourist. And that's all about, I launched myself into the weird world of conspiracy theorists. And I've just been back from Newfoundland, where I went to an island called Fogo, which is supposed to be the edge of the flat earth. I did a massive road trip from Denver, Colorado, all the way down through New Mexico to Austin, Texas, kind of looking at things like Roswell and JFK. I spent a week chasing Alex Jones around Austin. I actually managed to get into his gated community and then was frog marched off at gunpoint. I'm not very good at that sort of thing. I'm really good at blagging it and getting in there. And then I get there and think, well, what am I going to do now? So I'm kind of a rubbish investigator, but I've really enjoyed it. It's really interesting. And then I've just been to stay at this very strange place called Camelot Castle, which is a hotel owned by this weird millionaire in Tintagel in Cornwall, and he famously flew the QAnon flag on New Year's Eve. So I went down there, and it was kind of like a conspiracy central hotel. It was the maddest place I've ever been. So again, I stayed there undercover for 3 days, and then I've got a big new tour at the end of the year, which is going to be on conspiracies, and then I've got a couple of TV projects which I'd love to tell you about, but they're not quite over the line yet. But some quite exciting stuff. So yeah, it's looking good. It's looking good.
Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks a lot for that.
Goodbye, my old friend. Your troubles are now over. Rest your weary bones. There's nothing left to do. Farewell, my old companion. You will be remembered. And as you leave this world, I thought the world of you. all that was in your heart. You carried on your shoulders the mark of your old hand is embedded in the past. Let go of it all. No more tears or laughter. You're ready for the road that takes you home at last. Goodbye, my old friend. Don't be afraid, I'm with you. I'll guide you to the light. Your restless spirit free, and parting holds such pain. There may be no tomorrow. The dreams inside your heart will all come true for me. Goodbye, my old friend. I have to let you go now. You were the gentle breeze that light upon my way. I know you won't be far. You're that angel on my shoulder. So goodbye, my old friend. We'll meet again someday. Goodbye, my old friend. We'll meet again someday.
That's Tommy Fleming, and I'm pleased to say he joins us now in the studio. How are you, sir?
I'm great, Robin. How are you?
Very well. Good to see you. It's like your annual visit here every year now, isn't it?
It's like a pilgrimage.
And you do the Ulster Hall every year as well.
Yeah,
So
I
it's,
have
you
a
know,
few
it's-
pilgrimages, don't
You
I?
do, don't you? Yeah.
I'm a walk in Medjugorje.
And is it true you got the big break when Phil Coulter walked into a bar and said, I like him?
That's true, actually. It was the Tower Bar in Westport, County Mayo. I was playing with a band called Jarrog, which was the Irish spelling is DEA Father RG for Red. There was two redheads in the band. It was kind of our traditional folk version of Simply Red. And so we decided to phonetically spell it by Jarrog. And we put a father on the O, why I don't know. And we were doing gigs all over Mayo and Sligo in the west of Ireland. And I was singing at this festival in Westport in a marquee outside the Tower Bar. And Phil came in, he was working in Castle Bar. And he came in to have a pint and he heard me singing. And it was funny. I was, 21? And he invited me along to play with his orchestra in the National Concert Hall in Dublin, in Cork Opera House.
Wow.
All of those great University Concert Hall, Limerick, and then on to do Carnegie Hall, Boston Symphony Hall, Massey Hall in San Francisco, all of those amazing venues, which is 30-something years ago. And he opened a huge door for me, massive, massive door for me. There's been a lot of things have happened in those almost 32
Well, I was going
years.
to say, there must be times when you're sitting there and you go, I can't actually believe that I'm here today, thinking about the car accident.
Yeah.
You put up a post on your social media recently with the head brace and the neck brace and stuff on.
I never
Scary.
did that before, actually. Yeah. I kind of kept this. I've got to a point, I think, Robin, in my life where I it's not that I don't care. I have no problem in talking about things anymore. The accident was 24 years ago. And I never really talked about it. I never let anyone see what the results of that accident were. And I found a picture. I was doing a clear out there a few weeks ago. I found a picture of me in the frame, and I don't know where it was taken. And I just put up a post and said, this is what happened.
Yeah.
And it's funny the reaction I got to it and the amount of people that didn't know that it happened.
Well, was there kind of knock-on health effects this
There
affect
was.
you today? Or?
But I mean, they're not really, I never call them health effects. I call them just kind of side effects of what happened.
Yeah.
You know, I've had a couple of operations over the years on my back. I can predict when it's going to rain. You know, I have a few metal plates in my back and in my neck, but I'm walking, I'm healthy, I'm trying to keep fit as much as I can.
Well, I saw that 8 o'clock this morning. My phone goes beep beep beep, and you're tagging me in a post, and I'm going, "There's Tommy in the gym at 8 o'clock." Was that just for my benefit this morning, or is that something you do every day?
My brother claims that I just get up, I get changed, get into the gym, take the picture, and go back to bed again. So no, I'm an early riser. I'm an early waker. As I get older, I think 4 and 5 hours sleep does me at this stage.
You've got the Ulster Hall gig coming up, and also the Millennium Forum in Derry. What can we expect from the gigs this year then?
I'm very, very conscious of not doing too much new material because the people don't know it. But you have to educate them slowly with new songs.
Yes, yeah.
So I always go back to songs that they remember and that I haven't done in a long time. So like the I Live in Free now is coming back that I haven't sang in 10 years. There's another song that we have done, Open Sky, that I haven't sang in 15 years,
wow.
15, 16 years. And they're all kind of, but there's still the old favourites are in there, like Bright Blue Rose, Danny Boy, Roll Back the Clouds, which will always be one of my favourite songs.
Because I knew Christy, as you did as well.
Christy was a lovely, lovely man. And so all those songs are in there. There's old, there's new, there's one or two little surprises. I tell a lot of stories about my parents, my late parents. They were a huge influence on me, and they shaped an awful lot of who I am and how I do things. I've turned into both of them, I'm convinced. I have, unfortunately I don't have my dad's patience or quiet demeanour. I have my mother's personality, and I look like my father, so I probably have got the best of both of them.
And were they musical, were they?
My mother was. My mother's family were very musical. My dad's family, they're musical on both sides. My father loved poetry. He used to recite poetry all the time. That was his party piece.
Yeah.
Or he was a great storyteller. When we were kids, he would tell amazing stories. And with every kind of fantasy story, there's an element of truth somewhere. So it would be so exaggerated that you'd nearly, it was a fantasy by the time it had finished. So yeah, they both had their own talent. They both had their own way, but they were very, very different people. Very, very different.
Brilliant. Okay, I was thinking the other day about the movie The Quiet Man, and something came into my head. You were with us in Cong for the 60 years of The Quiet Man,
when Maureen O'Hara was there. Yes, I was actually.
Because the film must be 70 years old now.
It is. That was in Ashford in Mayo.
That was the weirdest weekend I've ever spent in my life, but what a weekend. We got to work with Maureen O'Hara.
Maureen O'Hara, I was sitting down with her for ages, and it was very funny. Twice this has happened to me. Once with Miriam Margulies and once with Maureen O'Hara. And I sat down beside Maureen O'Hara and said, "Oh, it's so great to meet you." And she's looking at me. She just kept looking at me. And I was talking for about 10 minutes, and she eventually goes, "Who are you?" I can't tell you the story about Miriam Margulies because the language in it was way too much.
Yes.
That happened in Australia with Elaine Page. Wow. And I walked into the dressing room and Elaine was there, and Miriam Margulies. And I said, "Oh my God, I'm a huge fan of yours," and I'm chatting away, just assuming she knew who I was. And she turned around to me, she looks at me very, very condescendingly, and she goes, "Who the F are you? And what's more to the point, what the F are you doing in this dressing room?"
Right, so we said the Ulster Hall gig is when?
The 17th of February, and Millennium Forum is the 24th of February. But yeah, looking forward to it, Robin, and it's always a pleasure.
We look forward to seeing you back in Belfast again, and we look forward to seeing you sitting there this time next year.
Please God. Yeah, please God. Thanks a million for having me, as always.
Good to see you, Tom.
You too.
Thank you.
I I've been sitting here so long for you to hear my song, and all you want to know is, am I on the radio? Who's the biggest star I've seen? And what's my favorite scene? And if I get the job, would I sing on Mars? Yes, sir, I would sing on Mars. I play upon a star. I'd sing songs of the sun. And when my job was done, I would say I love you so. I'd like to sing one more, just for all young lovers for the road. Tell me, sir, yeah, just how far I need to go to be a star. I have known my highs and lows. I've worked on every show. I've played in every town and brought some houses down, but critics never notice me. I'm not a star, you see, and yet I give my heart to every part. I would stand for hours and hours. I've walked through some showers with my dancing shoes and my dreams and views. I'd walk upon an empty stage with one light on my face, to be told, don't phone us, but we'll phone you. Tell me, sir, yeah, just how far I need to go to be a star, to be a star. Every day the same old scene, the same old happenings, 100 miles of shows, and yet no place to go. But when your luck is all out, you're asked to take a bow. You've just stolen the show, but now you're on your own. Yes, sir, would sing on Mars. My dream scene is me a star, me a star, me a star. I am a star.
Another fabulous song from Tommy Fleming. And don't forget, you can catch Tommy at the Ulster Hall here in Belfast on the 17th of February, and also the Millennium Forum in Derry on Friday the 24th of February. That's all we have time for on the show tonight. Thank you to all my guests. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you back here same time next week. Bye-bye.